This event called Lights Over Phoenix. What did you see?
Well, I saw a huge craft just kind of come right over Squaw Peak. That was, it was just breathtaking. And I'm not sure about the date. You've got a better memory
March
for the
13th.
dates than I do. Yeah.
But there was no, like the Clinton day, no.
No. No, I was on a strict diet. No, I'm serious. I'm serious now. That unquestionably it was a UFO, which means unidentified flying object.
Right. Doesn't mean we're being visited.
Well, it's nothing like anything I've ever seen.
And you're an Air Force guy.
Yeah, yeah, and a pilot. Got a lot of hours flying, so it was pretty breathtaking. And I'll never forget. I snuck out to see it, without DPS, which I'm not supposed to be driving my own car and that kind of thing.
Yeah.
And so, but I told Ann what I was doing. I was going to go up to Squaw Peak and see what everybody was, clamoring about. And when I walked in the front door, she looked at me, and I was apparently just, normally I'm fair complected and pale anyway, right? And she said, "Oh my gosh," she said, "she looked like a ghost. What did you see?" And I said, "Well, I don't know what I saw, but it was really something, and I'm not going to talk about it." And
wow.
So,
did it frighten you?
No, I think I was kind of in awe, really,
How big?
Bigger than anything I've ever seen in the sky.
Like an aircraft carrier in the sky?
Yeah, something like that, yeah. And it was hard to define because of the light in terms of the size, but it was absolutely silent and had sort of eerie embedded lights, and so that's what I saw. And I wasn't expecting to see anything because I was looking out over at Luke
right.
to the west, and then all of a sudden these people in the park area just on the west side of 51, there were a bunch of people there. Everybody said, "Oh, look at that." And we turned around, and this thing was coming from the northwest, traveling to the southeast.
We now know, and it really hit me when we were watching the Diamondbacks in Game 7, and the B-1 flew over.
Mm-hmm.
Over.
It wasn't. Yeah, it wasn't a B-1 bomber.
But that thing all of a sudden out of nowhere appears. And,
Yeah.
I said to somebody that night, I said, well, when they do test these,
Mm-hmm.
they test them in populated areas. They're new stuff. They test it to see if people detect it.
Mm-hmm.
Do you believe it was ours? Do you believe it was something from the U.S. government that they were
No.
kind of flying around?
No, it wasn't even close to a B. It was much bigger than a B-1. A B-1 actually isn't that big. I mean,
Right.
I mean, if it's at low altitude, it'll appear big, but no, this was totally different.
Something, though, that you think our own government may have been kind of running by a populated area to see what would happen?
Well, they certainly achieved their goal of stirring the pot, if that's what they were doing. But I don't think so. I think this was technologically far advanced. I use the analogy. Can you imagine if you took Christopher Columbus and put him in the cockpit of a Boeing 777? What his reaction would be? He wouldn't understand it. He would be convinced that this is something from another world,
Is that what?
And I think I really believe that. I believe that. But I've always been open to that. We're not alone in the universe.
I agree with you.
We're going to find that. We're going to find that out one way or the other. Even Bill Clinton was talking about that the other day on the national news.
I saw that.
Yeah.
I do believe that we're not alone. I just don't know that we've been visited. But you think maybe that night we were? I
think so, yeah. There have been so many different sort of sightings and inexplicable phenomena that, but the disparity in terms of technological progress would be so vast that we would be, I think, of sort of no consequence to whoever is visiting us, because the technology to get here would be just beyond anything we could imagine.
Did it hover?
No, it was just going in a straight line.
Slow pace?
Yeah, slow pace, yeah. And then, there were all the sightings.
Flares.
There were the sightings of the America West plane coming into Sky Harbor, said he could have landed on it.
It was enormous.
Yeah.
Like an aircraft carrier in the sky? Is that about as close as
I think that's a fair description,
oh my God.
Yeah. I'm Fife Symington. In 1997, during my second term as governor of Arizona, I saw something that defied logic and challenged my reality. I witnessed a massive delta-shaped craft that silently navigated over the Squaw Peak area in North Phoenix in the evening, and it was truly breathtaking.
To my astonishment, it appeared to be a solid structure. It was huge. It had a very distinctive leading edge with huge embedded lights in it. And it was just traveling quietly, made no sound, through the Arizona night sky. I still don't know what it was. As a pilot and a former Air Force officer, I can definitively say that this craft did not resemble any man-made object that I'd ever seen. And it was certainly not high-altitude flares as put out by the Air Force at Luke Air Force Base, because I've never seen flares fly in formation. The incident was witnessed by hundreds, if not thousands, of people in Maricopa County and in southern Arizona, and my office was besieged with phone calls from very concerned citizens. The growing hysteria intensified when the story broke nationally, and so I decided to lighten the mood of the state, and I called a press conference where I dressed up my chief of staff in a Martian outfit. It was meant to be a spoof, a good-natured spoof. That worked. We managed to lessen the sense of panic at the time, but I also upset quite a few of my constituents. Well, I'd like now to set the record straight. I never meant to ridicule anyone. My office did make inquiries as to the origin of the craft, but to this day they remain unanswered. Eventually, the Air National Guard claimed responsibility, stating that their pilots had been dropping flares. They also, another individual from Tucson said that A-10s had been flying in formation over Maricopa County, but those of us in the Air Force, and those of you who know about A-10s, they're called the Warthog, it's a tank-killing aircraft, know that it's the noisiest machine in the sky, and there's no way that a flight of A-10s could come over Maricopa County and be quiet. That just doesn't work. So we get these explanations that fly in the face of facts, explanations like weather balloons, swamp gas, military flares, and hardware and software problems. I was never happy with this silly explanation. There might very well have been military flares in the sky that evening, but that sure wasn't what I and what hundreds of my fellow citizens saw. Well, I now know that I'm not alone in witnessing something extraordinary. That's the bottom line. There are many high-ranking military, aviation, and government officials, many of whom are here today, who share my concerns. Some of them have truly exceptional stories to tell. There's absolutely no doubt as to the veracity of what these men have told you. They have fought in wars, they have guarded top-secret weapons, and they've flown countless passengers throughout the world's skies. Incidents like these are not going away. 1 year ago, Chicago's O'Hare Airport experienced a UFO event that made national and international headlines. Pilots and many other airline employees observed a metallic-looking disc hovering over the United Airlines terminal for several minutes, and then it shot straight up into the sky, cut a hole in the sky, disappeared. The FAA apparently did not investigate, dismissed the sightings as weather. We want the United States government to stop perpetuating the myth that all UFOs can be explained away in down-to-earth and conventional terms. Instead, our country needs to reopen its official investigation that it shut down in 1969. The United States government can no longer shun an international dialogue about this phenomenon, and we invite the government to work in cooperation with countries as represented on both sides of me here today. When it comes to events of this nature, dealing with the great unknown, we deserve, I believe, more openness and a serious pursuit of the facts by our government. Thank you very much.